Okay, let's move on and create some more content. So I will go here in my Excalibur row and move on to the next step. So what's the next step? So the next step is once we have like this basic structure with these first rows, the next step is to go one step further and actually try and create a diagram, a box for the inner boxes, the inner rows. So once I have my first level of rows, I then go inside these boxes and I try to create boxes for nested rows, for other nested horizontal areas. So let me pick a different color. Okay, so let's go to the first like section, the header. So one might say that this is just one row with like two columns. So we can probably want to stick with the header and then find a way to create these two columns. But the thing here is that the designer has put this reminder for us. It says, okay, I have this box, this header element, as we have it right now, that has this dark background, but I want the main content that lives inside this element to have a max width of 1100 pixels. So even though this header element has a dark background and it has some content, the content itself has like a smaller width than the header. So in order for me to actually create an element that will limit the content within this specified width, I will create another row here, so another element, and then I can apply some maximum width to it, and so that row can become nested within the header, and that nested element can accept an extra property that limits this to this width. So I will create another element and I will name this I will create a div because this is just a stat for styling purposes, and I will give it a class and I will say I don't know, let's say wrapper for now, or maybe I would switch this class. I now think this is probably a bit more appropriate to have the ID wrapper to the one that contains all these elements, and then I will use the container and I'm going to reuse this class. So this row is going to be a div inside the header, and it's going to have like a specific width set to it. I'm going to set this to a class instead of an ID because I will be reusing this container class to apply this max width setting to other parts of the design. Because as you can see, there are more areas that are contained within this limit, this 1100 pixel limit. So there is this area which also spans 1100 pixels, and then there is also this area. So I will go and create like either 2 or 3 more rows. Now in here I will create 2 rows. You might go for 1. It's up to you. We can work with both designs. I will just create 2 rows here, and then since they will be sharing some properties with the first div, they will be having a max width of 1100 pixels. I will also name this, I will also create a div with a container class. So these are kind of like utility div elements. You might think of them as utility elements that apply a max width. So I'm going to use these divs and I'm going to use this class to actually contain some content within this max width. So let me go and just create this one. Now another case where I can use just 1 row for all these elements, or maybe 2. It's up to you. For this one, I'm going to go with just 1 row, and we will see how they play differently from this choice that we made here to actually create 2 div containers instead of 1. So once again, I have this div container. Okay, so the next step, of course, is to, as usual, like create, go one level deeper and create the rows that are to be found, the horizontal sections that are found inside the larger rows, the larger horizontal sections that we defined in the beginning. So I'm going to have like these 4 containers, and I'm going to add them on my HTML and add some dummy data. Now, before going there, and just to have something to see when I go to my HTML, I'm going to also like create some elements. So this container contains, as you can see, like 2 areas. No, let's create the containers, and we'll go back and add more elements within the container. So let's go back to our HTML, and let me just move this to the right once again. So we have our main, and let's go here. So we have the header. So one container is within the header. So I will use the Emmet abbreviation with the .class shortcut, and then I will move the header right here. Now something changed, but I will fix it. And then I will use like 2 containers. So container times 2 to create 2 containers. And then this one would be like, I don't know, main section 1. And then I will put this as, let's say, main section 2. And another container for the footer, container, and then footer. And then I will change this to wrapper. So I made a mistake. So this is an ID with wrapper. So I will have to change now to switch my styles. So let me open up my styles right here. So the container, let me just move this to the bottom. So here I changed the class container on the main element to ID wrapper. So I'm going to go here and change this to ID wrapper. So I have this flexbox. Okay, now I'm back to the original layout. Just switched like names here. And then I'm going to also add the class for the containers. So I'm going to fold all the elements here in my CSS so I can see only what I need. I'm going to also remove these comments. They are no longer needed. And now I'm going to go here and define a container class. And I'm going to give it some outline. Let's give it 4 pixel orange, as we see in the diagram. So now I can see that these sections, let me see if we can see them side by side. And I will put them like a little bit here. So we have our design here, and we have our actual HTML, and you can see that it starts to closely like reflect the design, or at least the splitting part that we're doing here. So you can see the header spans the full width and has this dark background, but the elements within that has like this orange border. So we have this div with class container within the header, and then we have these 2 containers here inside the main. We will have, of course, to give them more height. And we also have this div container at the bottom. So as you can see, it starts looking a little bit like our content here, our design.